Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked out the viewing window of the human ship Unity. Before him stretched the most beautiful planet he had ever seen. Crystal towers rose from purple forests, their surfaces catching light from 3 different suns. This was Valia Prime, home to the most powerful alien empire humans had ever discovered. "Sir, they're sending another message," said Lieutenant Emma Torres from her station. She was a team's language expert and had been working day and night to understand the alien signals. Jake nodded, put it through the translator. The speakers crackled to life. Strange clicking and buzzing sounds filled the bridge, followed by the computer's best guess at translation. "Small creatures in metal shell. You will come down. Queen Lyrics will see you now." Jake smiled despite his nervousness. After 6 months of travel, they were finally here. Earth had sent him and his small team to make contact with the Velians. These aliens had technology far beyond human understanding. Their ships could cross space in days, not months. If humans could make friends with them, it would change everything. "Sir, are you sure about this?" asked Dr. Marchen, the team doctor. "We don't know anything about their customs. What if we make them angry?" Jake had been asking himself the same question. But someone had to take the risk. We've come too far to turn back now. Besides, they could have destroyed us already if they wanted to. The fact that they're talking means they're curious about us. The shuttle ride down to the planet's surface was smooth but strange. The Velian escort ships looked like giant insects made of metal and crystal. They didn't make any sound as they flew, which made Jake's stomach feel odd. The landing pad was huge, built from some kind of white stone that seemed to glow with its own light. As Jake and his 3-person team stepped out of their shuttle, they saw them for the first time. The Velians were tall, very tall. The shortest one Jake could see was at least 7 feet high. They had long, thin bodies covered in what looked like natural armor. Their skin was dark blue or green, with patterns of lights that moved across their bodies like waves. They had 4 arms each, and their heads were larger than human heads, with big eyes that reflected light like mirrors. "Remember," Jake whispered to his team, "stay calm and follow my lead. Don't make any sudden moves." A group of Velian guards led them through the Crystal City. Jake tried not to stare, but everything was amazing. Buildings grew from the ground like trees, but they were made of living crystal. Strange plants with glowing flowers lined the streets. The air smelled like cinnamon and rain. Other Velians stopped to watch the humans walk by. Jake could hear them making clicking sounds to each other. He wondered what they were saying. Probably something about how small and weak the humans looked. The palace was the biggest building Jake had ever seen. It rose into the clouds, its walls covered in moving patterns of light. Inside, the halls were so tall that Jake felt like an ant. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. Finally, they reached the throne room. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The room was enormous, filled with Velians of all sizes. At the center, on a throne made from what looked like living diamond, sat Queen Lyrics. She was the most impressive being Jake had ever seen. Nearly 8 feet tall, her body was covered in armor-like skin that shimmered with colors Jake didn't have names for. Patterns of light danced across her surface, like living tattoos. Her eyes were large and golden, fixed directly on Jake with an intelligence that made him feel like she could see into his soul. "Approach, small ones," she said. Her voice was deep and musical, with clicking sounds mixed in. The translator in Jake's ear turned it into English, but he could still hear the alien beauty of her real voice. Jake walked forward with his team behind him. He had practiced this moment 100 times, but his heart was still beating fast. When he reached the bottom of the throne platform, he stopped and bowed his head slightly. Not too much. That might look weak, but enough to show respect. "Your Majesty," Jake said clearly, "I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the people of Earth. We come in peace, hoping to learn from your great civilization." Queen Lyrics leaned forward, studying him with those golden eyes. "You are smaller than we expected. Humans. Your ships are crude, your weapons simple. Why should the Velian Empire waste time with such basic creatures?" The word stung, but Jake kept his face calm. We may be small, Your Majesty, but we have qualities that might interest you. We adapt quickly. We solve problems in new ways, and we never give up. A sound like laughing came from the other Velians in the room. Queen Lyrics raised one of her four hands, and the room went silent. Interesting words, Captain Morrison, but words are easy. The galaxy is full of species that make grand claims. The heat in the throne room was getting stronger. Jake could feel sweat building under his formal jacket. The three suns outside were making the crystal walls act like a greenhouse. He tried to ignore it, but his clothes were getting soaked. Without thinking, Jake pulled off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. He was too focused on the conversation to realize what he was doing. He just needed to cool down. But the moment his bare arms showed, something changed in the room. Queen Lyrics' eyes went wide. The patterns of light on her skin started moving faster, changing to colors Jake hadn't seen before. Her antennae, which had been still, began to twitch and move. All around the room, other Velians started making soft clicking sounds. Jake looked around, confused. Had he done something wrong? Queen Lyrics stood up from her throne. Even from far away, she seemed huge. She walked down the steps slowly, her golden eyes never leaving Jake's exposed skin. "Fascinating," she said, her voice somehow different than before. "Your skin, it has patterns we cannot see on your surface. But underneath..." She stopped just a few feet away from Jake, much closer than he expected. Jake tried not to step back. "Your Majesty, have I offended you somehow?" Queen Lyrics tilted her head, studying him like he was the most interesting thing in the universe. "Not offended, Captain Morrison. Intrigued. In our culture, such display of natural form, it carries meaning." Jake's face turned red as he realized what had happened. He quickly reached for his jacket, but Queen Lyrics raised a hand to stop him. "No," she said firmly. "Do not hide yourself. You have shown something unexpected." She turned to address the room full of Velians. "It appears these humans may be more interesting than we first thought." She looked back at Jake, and he saw something in those golden eyes that he hadn't expected. Interest. Real, personal interest. "Tell me, Captain Morrison," Queen Lyric said, her voice carrying a new tone that made Jake's heart beat even faster. "What else might you humans be willing to share with us?" Jake swallowed hard, suddenly realizing that this first contact mission had just become much more complicated than anyone back on Earth had planned. The patterns on Queen Lyrics' skin pulsed with warm, golden light as she waited for his answer. Jake couldn't sleep. It had been 3 days since the meeting with Queen Lyrics, and he kept thinking about the way she had looked at him. Her golden eyes had followed him everywhere during the tour of the palace. Even now, alone in his guest room, he could feel those eyes watching him. The Velians had given the human team beautiful rooms in the palace. Each room was carved from living crystal that glowed softly at night. The walls showed moving pictures of alien forests and seas. It should have been relaxing, but Jake's mind wouldn't stop racing. A soft chime came from his door. Jake sat up quickly. "Come in." Lieutenant Emma Torres entered, looking worried. "Sir, we have a problem." "A big one." Jake stood up, pulling on his shirt. "What's wrong?" Emma held up a small device that was blinking red. "The Velian government sent us an official message an hour ago. I've been trying to translate it, but some parts don't make sense." "Show me what you have." Emma activated a small screen. Alien symbols flowed across it, with English words appearing below. The first part is normal diplomatic talk. They're impressed with our ship design and want to trade for our engine technology. Jake nodded. That was good news. "What's the problem, then?" Emma's face turned red. "Sir, the second part. It's addressed to you personally. From Queen Lyrics herself." "What does it say?" Emma looked down at the screen, then back at Jake. "Sir, she's asking you to bond with her." Jake blinked. "Bond? What does that mean exactly?" "That's where it gets complicated." Emma touched the screen, bringing up more text. "The translator is having trouble, but from what I can understand, she wants to perform some kind of mating ritual with you." Jake sat down hard on his bed. "She wants to what?" "I know it sounds crazy, sir, But according to this message, Velian queens can only reproduce with beings they consider genetically superior. She thinks humans have something their species needs. Jake ran his hands through his hair. Emma, are you telling me an alien queen wants to have children with me? That's what it looks like, sir. But there's more. Emma touched the screen again. She's not just attracted to you. This is about politics, too. If she chooses a human as her mate, it would make humans equal partners in the Velian Empire. Jake stood up and walked to a window. Outside, the crystal city glowed in the light of the 3 moons. What would that mean for us? For Earth? Everything, sir. Access to their technology, their star maps, their trade networks. We could go from a single planet to a galactic civilization overnight. Jake turned back to Emma. And if I say no? Emma's expression was grim. The message doesn't say directly, but I think we'd be sent home empty-handed. Maybe worse. Before Jake could respond, the door chimed again. This time, Dr. Marchin entered with a strange expression on his face. Sir, you need to hear this, Mark said. I was studying the medical data the Velians shared with us. I think I understand what Queen Lyrics really wants. Jake gestured for him to continue. The Velian Empire is in trouble, Mark said. Their society is based on genetic castes. Queens, workers, soldiers, they're all born into specific roles. But this system has created a problem. What kind of problem? Jake asked. Mark activated his own screen, showing Velian genetic charts. In breeding, sir, their gene pool is getting smaller every generation. Birth rates are dropping, and genetic defects are increasing. If this continues, their species will die out in a few hundred years. Emma looked shocked. So she doesn't just want Jake. She needs him. Exactly, Mark said. Humans have something they've lost, genetic diversity. Our DNA is messy and unpredictable compared to theirs. But that's exactly what they need to survive. Jake walked back to the window, processing this information. So I'm not just a potential mate. I'm a solution to their extinction problem. There's something else, sir, Mark continued. I've been analyzing the data about their bonding process. It's not just physical. Velians form mental connections with their mates. You wouldn't just be having children with her. You'd be sharing thoughts, memories, maybe even consciousness. Jake felt his stomach turn cold. You mean I'd become part alien? We don't know for sure, sir, but the data suggests both partners are changed by the process. Emma stepped forward. Sir, there's a time limit. The message says you have 2 more days to give your answer. Jake closed his eyes, trying to think clearly. This was supposed to be a simple first contact mission. Now he was being asked to mate with an alien queen and potentially change the course of human history. A new chime came from the door. This time, when it opened, a tall Velian entered. Jake recognized him as Lord Vex, one of Queen Lyrics' advisors. Captain Morrison. Lord Vex said to the translator, Queen Lyrics requests your presence in her private gardens. She wishes to speak with you about her proposal. Jake looked at his team members. Emma gave him an encouraging nod. Mark looked worried but didn't object. Tell the Queen I'll be there shortly, Jake said. Lord Vex bowed and left. Jake turned to his team. Sir, what are you thinking? Emma asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. I'm thinking that sometimes a captain has to make decisions that affect more than just himself. But first, I need to understand what Queen Lyrics really wants from me. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Emma, keep working on those translations. I want to know everything about this bonding process. Mark, research everything you can about human-alien genetic compatibility. What are you going to tell her, sir? Mark asked. Jake looked back at them with a small smile. I'm going to ask her the same questions we're asking ourselves. Why me? Why humans? And what exactly does she think will happen if we go through with this? As Jake left his room and followed the glowing paths toward the Queen's gardens, he couldn't shake the feeling that his next conversation would change not just his life, but the future of both species. The 3 moons cast strange shadows as he walked deeper into the palace, toward a meeting that would determine the fate of Earth itself. Behind him, Emma and Mark watched through the crystal window as their captain disappeared into the alien night, carrying the hopes and fears of all humanity on his shoulders. The patterns of light on the palace walls seemed to pulse faster, as if the building itself was excited about what was to come. The Queen's private gardens were unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. Plants with glowing leaves grew in perfect spirals around pools of silver water. The air was warm and smelled like honey mixed with ocean breeze. Strange flowers opened and closed as he walked past, following his movement with petals that looked like eyes. Queen Lyrics was waiting for him beside a fountain that sang with musical notes instead of water sounds. She had changed from her formal royal armor into something softer, a flowing robe that matched the colors dancing across her skin. In this gentle light, she looked less like a terrifying alien ruler and more like, Jake wasn't sure what, something beautiful and sad. "Captain Morrison," she said, turning to face him. "Thank you for coming." Jake bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, your message said you wanted to talk about your proposal." Queen Lyrics gestured for him to sit on a bench made from living crystal. She sat across from him, close enough that he could see the complex patterns moving under her skin. This close, he could hear a soft humming sound coming from her body, like electricity mixed with music. "Tell me, Captain," she said, "what do you know about loneliness?" The question surprised Jake. Well, everyone gets lonely sometimes, Your Majesty." "I have ruled the Velian Empire for 40 years, she said, looking up at the 3 moons. 40 years of making decisions that affect billions of lives. 40 years without a single person I could trust completely. 40 years without someone who could understand me as more than just a queen." Jake watched her face, seeing something he hadn't expected. Vulnerability. "You seem to have many advisors. Surely some of them are friends." Queen Lyrics made a sound that might have been laughing, but sadder. "They bow to me because they must. They agree with me because disagreeing could mean death. Even when they think I'm wrong, they say nothing." She looked directly at Jake. "But when you remove your jacket in my throne room, you weren't thinking about politics or protocol. You were just being yourself." "I was just hot," Jake said honestly. "Exactly." The patterns on her skin pulsed brighter. "For the first time in decades, someone in my presence acted naturally. Not as a subject trying to please a queen, but as a person dealing with a simple problem in a simple way." Jake began to understand. "You're not just looking for a mate. You're looking for someone who will treat you like a person. My species has forgotten how to do that," Queen Lyric said. "We have become so focused on genetic purity and social order that we have lost something essential, something you humans still have." She stood and walked to the fountain. The singing water reflected her glowing patterns. "But there is more you need to know, Captain, about what I am offering and what it would cost." Jake joined her by the fountain. "I'm listening." Queen Lyrics touched the control on the fountain's edge. The water stopped singing and became still like a mirror. In its surface, images began to appear. "This is what our empire really looks like," she said. Jake saw star maps with hundreds of solar systems connected by glowing lines. Massive ships moving between worlds. Cities that covered entire planets. It was incredible, but something was wrong with the picture. "I don't understand," Jake said. "It looks amazing." "Look closer," Queen Lyric said. "See the empty spaces." Jake studied the map more carefully. Now he could see it, gaps where systems should be, dark areas where the glowing line stopped. What happened to those places? "They are dying," Queen Lyric said quietly. "Planets where the population has dropped so low they can barely function. Systems we have abandoned because there aren't enough people to maintain them." The image changed, showing Velian cities with empty buildings and quiet streets. "Our genetic system worked for thousands of years," Queen Lyrics continued. "But now it is killing us. Each generation has fewer children than the last. Each generation is more similar to the previous one. And you think human genetics could fix this?" Jake asked. "Not just genetics," Queen Lyric said. "Your way of thinking, your unpredictability, your ability to solve problems in ways we never consider." She touched the water again, and the images changed to show human cities, human inventions, human art. "You have chaos in your DNA, Captain Morrison. Beautiful, creative chaos that we have bred out of ourselves." Jake stared at the images of Earth. His home looked so small compared to the Velian Empire, but also more alive somehow. What would happen to me if I agreed to this bonding process? Queen Lyrics was quiet for a long moment. I will not lie to you, she said finally. The bonding changes both partners. You would gain some of our abilities, enhanced strength, longer life, the ability to communicate through bioelectric fields. But you would also become partially Velian in your thinking patterns. Would I still be human? You would be something new, she said. The first of a new kind of being. Part human creativity, part Velian capability. Our offspring would be even more unique. Jake felt his heart racing. And if the bonding doesn't work? If our species are too different? Queen Lyrics' patterns dimmed. Then I will likely die childless, and my empire will slowly collapse into civil war. The noble houses are already positioning themselves to take power when I'm gone. She looked at him with those golden eyes. But if it does work, Captain Morrison, we could create something neither of our species could achieve alone. Jake walked back to the bench, his mind spinning. How long do I have to decide? The lunar alignment needed for the bonding ceremony happens tomorrow night. Queen Lyrics said. After that, we must wait another year, and I am not sure the Empire can survive that long without an heir. Jake looked up at the 3 moons, all nearly full in the alien sky. Tomorrow night, less than 24 hours to make a decision that would change everything. Can I ask you something personal, Your Majesty? Lyrics, she said. If you are considering becoming my mate, you should call me by my name. Lyrics, Jake said, testing the word. Are you attracted to me because I'm human, or because I'm the only person who's treated you normally in 40 years? Queen Lyrics smiled, the first real smile Jake had seen from her. Both, she said honestly. And because when you rolled up your sleeves, you showed me that humans don't let small problems stop them from doing what needs to be done. Jake laughed despite the seriousness of the situation. I just didn't want to sweat through my good shirt. Exactly, Queen Lyrics said. Practical, direct, human. Her patterns pulsed with warm colors. So, Captain Morrison, Jake, will you help me save both our species? Jake stood up, looking at this incredible alien woman who was asking him to change the course of history. Tomorrow night, he would have to give her an answer that would affect billions of lives. I need to think, he said, and I need to talk to my team. Queen Lyrics nodded. I understand. But Jake, whatever you decide, know that asking you is the first real choice I've made in 40 years. As Jake walked back through the singing gardens toward his room, he realized that Queen Lyrics wasn't the only one whose life was about to change forever. The 3 moons followed him through the crystal corridors, counting down the hours until tomorrow night. Jake stood in his room, looking at himself in a mirror made of polished crystal. He had made his decision 6 hours ago, after talking with Emma and Mark until the early morning. Now, as the 3 suns set and the moons rose, he was about to do something no human had ever done before. Emma knocked on his door and entered carrying a formal outfit. The Velian sent this for you, she said, holding up clothes that seemed to be made from woven starlight. They said it's traditional for the bonding ceremony. Jake took the outfit, feeling how light it was despite looking so elegant. Emma, are you sure we're doing the right thing? Emma smiled, but Jake could see she was worried too. Sir, you're about to become the bridge between 2 civilizations. If that's not the right thing to do, I don't know what is. Mark appeared in the doorway with his medical scanner. I've been monitoring your vital signs all day, he said. Your heart rate is elevated, but you're healthier than I've ever seen you. Whatever happens tonight, your body is ready for it. Jake nodded and began changing into the alien clothes. They fit perfectly and felt like wearing liquid silver. What did you find out about the bonding process? More than we expected, Mark said, checking his scanner. It's not just physical mating. The Velians use bioelectric fields to create mental connections. You'll literally share thoughts and memories with Queen Lyrics. Will it hurt? Jake asked. Emma and Mark looked at each other. We don't know, Emma said honestly, but the Velian record suggests it's more overwhelming than painful, like experiencing 2 lifetimes at once. A soft chime indicated someone was at the door. Lord Vex entered, followed by 4 other Velian nobles. They all wore formal robes that glowed with different colors. Captain Morrison, Lord Vex said to the translator, Queen Lyrics sends her greetings. The ceremony will begin when the 3 moons reach their peak alignment. Jake looked out the window. The moons were already climbing high in the sky, casting strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. Is the Queen ready? Jake asked. Her Majesty has been preparing since sunrise, Lord Vex replied. But I must warn you, Captain, not all of our people are happy about this bonding. Some believe it goes against our ancient laws. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Will there be trouble? The Queen's guard will ensure your safety, Lord Vex said. But be aware that what you do tonight will change both our civilizations forever. The group walked through the crystal corridors toward the ceremony chamber. Jake had never seen this part of the palace before. The walls here were older, covered in ancient carvings that told the story of the Velian Empire's rise to power. As they walked, Jake noticed more and more Velians following them, some looking curious, others appearing angry. They're all here to watch, Emma whispered to Jake. No pressure, Jake whispered back, trying to make a joke, but his voice cracked slightly. The ceremony chamber was enormous. The ceiling was open to sky, letting in the light of the 3 moons. Hundreds of Velians filled the circular room, their bioluminescent patterns creating a galaxy of moving lights. At the center of the room was a raised platform made from what looked like living diamond. Queen Lyrics was already there, waiting for him. Jake's breath caught in his throat. She had removed her royal armor and wore only a simple robe that matched the colors dancing across her skin. In the moonlight, she looked both alien and beautiful, powerful and vulnerable at the same time. As Jake walked toward the platform, the room fell silent. Every Velian eye was watching him. He could feel their judgment, their curiosity, their fear. Some were probably hoping he would fail. Jake climbed the steps to the platform. Up close, Queen Lyrics was even more impressive. Her golden eyes met his, and he saw something there that gave him courage, trust. Jake, she said softly, using his first name in front of her entire court. Are you ready? As ready as a human can be for something like this, Jake replied. Queen Lyrics smiled. The ceremony has 3 parts, she explained. First, we share our histories. You will see my memories, and I will see yours. Second, we connect our bioelectric fields. This will allow us to communicate, without words. Third, she paused, her patterns shifting to warmer colors. Third, we bond physically and genetically. Jake nodded, his heart pounding. I understand. Queen Lyrics raised her 4 arms toward the 3 moons. The lights on her skin began pulsing in rhythm with some cosmic pattern Jake couldn't hear. She began speaking in the ancient Velian language, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. She's asking the moons to witness our bonding. Emma's voice came through Jake's earpiece translator. She's telling her ancestors that she chooses to mate with a human to save their species. Queen Lyrics finished her prayer and looked at Jake. Give me your hands, she said. Jake reached out, taking 2 of her 4 hands his own. The moment their skin touched, Jake felt a shock like electricity, but warm instead of painful. The patterns on Queen Lyrics' skin began moving faster, and Jake could feel something flowing between them. Suddenly, images flashed through his mind. He saw Queen Lyrics as a young princess, learning to rule. He felt her loneliness during her coronation. He experienced her fear as she watched her empire slowly dying. He understood her desperate hope when the humans first arrived. At the same time, Jake felt Queen Lyrics experiencing his memories, his childhood on Earth, his decision to join the space program, his excitement when they discovered the Velian signals, his nervousness about this mission. Now you know me, Queen Lyrics said, but Jake heard her words both through his ears and directly in his mind. And I know you. The bioelectric connection was incredible. Jake could feel Queen Lyrics' thoughts mixing with his own. Her vast knowledge of the galaxy combined with his human creativity and adaptability. Together, they could see solutions to problems that neither could solve alone. The final step, Queen Lyrics said, moving closer to him. Jake looked out at the watching crowd of Velians. Some were making sound of approval. Others looked shocked. But Jake no longer cared what they thought. Through his connection with Queen Lyrics, he could feel her genuine affection for him and his own growing feelings for her. As the three moons reached their perfect alignment overhead, Jake and Queen Lyrics completed their bonding. Energy flowed between them like lightning, changing both of them on a cellular level. Jake felt his body becoming stronger, his mind expanding to process information in new ways. Queen Lyrics gasped, her pattern shifting to colors Jake had never seen before. Through their connection, Jake felt her experiencing human emotions for the first time: wonder, joy, and something that might have been love. When the energy finally faded, they were both different. Jake could feel new strength in his muscles and new pathways in his brain. Queen Lyrics' patterns had changed too, showing influences from human neural activity. "It is done," Queen Lyrics announced to the watching crowd. "I am bonded to Jake Morrison of Earth. Our species are now joined." The chamber erupted in sounds, some cheering, some arguing, all amazed. But Jake only had attention for Queen Lyrics, who was looking at him with wonder. "How do you feel?" she asked through their mental connection. Jake smiled. "Different. Better. Like I could see the whole galaxy clearly for the first time." Queen Lyrics touched his face gently with one of her hands. "Then we have succeeded, my mate. Now we can begin building the future together." As they walked down from the platform together, Jake realized that his life as just a human was over, but his life as something new, something that could help both species survive and thrive, was just beginning. The three moons shone down on them as they faced their new future together. 3 months after the bonding ceremony, Jake stood in the palace's communication center, watching the screens that showed reactions from across the galaxy. The news of Queen Lyrics' pregnancy had spread faster than light itself, carried by Velian ships to every corner of their empire and beyond. "Another message from Earth," Emma said, handing Jake a datapad. "The president wants to know when you're coming home for a full briefing." Jake smiled as he read the message. His enhanced abilities let him process the information much faster than before, while also understanding the political undertones that his human training had taught him to recognize. "Tell them I'll visit Earth next month," Jake said. "But my home is here now." Emma nodded. She had been promoted to ambassador and was enjoying her new role as the bridge between human and Velian diplomats. "The media back home is calling you either humanity's greatest hero or its biggest traitor. Nothing in between." "That sounds about right," Jake said. Through his mental connection with Queen Lyrics, he could feel her amusement at human politics. She was in a council meeting 3 floors above, but their bond let them share thoughts and emotions across any distance. Dr. Marchin entered the communication center with a huge grin on his face. "Jake, you need to see the latest medical reports. The baby is developing perfectly. Better than perfectly, actually." Jake felt his heart skip with excitement. The pregnancy had been a source of wonder and worry for everyone involved. No one knew what to expect from the first human-Velian hybrid child. "Show me," Jake said. Mark activated a holographic display that showed detailed scans of Queen Lyrics. The baby has human creativity centers in its brain, but with Velian processing power. It's going to be incredibly intelligent. Plus, it has the best physical traits from both species, human adaptability with Velian strength and longevity. Jake stared at the image of his unborn child. "How long will it live?" "We estimate about 500 years, Mark said. "And that's just the beginning. Each generation after this should live even longer." Before Jake could respond, Lord Vex rushed into the room. His usually calm demeanor was replaced by obvious excitement. "Captain Morrison," Lord Vex said, "you must come quickly. Queen Lyrics is making an announcement to the Empire. Something about a new colony." Jake followed Lord Vex through the crystal corridors to the main throne room. The chamber was filled with Velian nobles, human diplomats, and representatives from a dozen other alien species who had come to witness this historic time. Queen Lyrics stood at the center of the room, her patterns glowing brighter than Jake had ever seen them. The pregnancy had changed her, making her bioluminescence more vibrant and her movements more graceful. When she saw Jake enter, she smiled and gestured for him to join her. "My people," Queen Lyrics announced, "today we take the first step toward our new future. Jake Morrison and I will establish the first joint human-Velian colony in the Kepler system. The room erupted in surprised voices. Jake was surprised, too. This was the first he had heard of this plan. Through their mental link, Queen Lyrics shared her thoughts with him. The idea had come to her during the council meeting. With civil war still threatening the Empire and Earth struggling to accept the changes, a new colony would give both species a fresh start. This colony will not follow the old Velian caste system, Queen Lyrics continued. Instead, it will be based on human principles of cooperation and individual choice combined with Velian technology and knowledge. One of the Velian nobles stepped forward. Your Majesty, such a radical change could destabilize the entire empire. Queen Lyrics looked at the noble with her golden eyes. Lord Crow, the empire is already unstable. Our birth rates continue to fall, and our rigid systems are killing us slowly. This colony will prove that change and bring strength, not weakness. Jake stepped forward, feeling confidence flow through him from his enhanced abilities. The colony will be open to anyone who wants to build something new. Humans who want to explore the galaxy, Velians who want to try new ways of living, and any other species that shares our vision. What about your child? Another noble asked. Will the heir to the Empire be raised in this experimental colony? Queen Lyrics placed one of her hands on her growing belly. Our child will be raised knowing both human and Velian cultures. They will understand cooperation as well as hierarchy, creativity as well as order. Over the following weeks, the announcement attracted attention from across the galaxy. 3 other alien species requested permission to send representatives to the new colony. The Zephyrians, a peaceful trading race, offered to share their advanced agriculture techniques. The Christek, a silicon-based species, wanted to exchange mining technology. Most surprisingly, the Void Dancers, mysterious energy beings that rarely contacted physical species, sent a message expressing interest in this new form of cooperation. Jake spent his days working with human engineers and Velian architects to design the colony ships. His enhanced mind could process both human intuitive design and Velian mathematical precision, creating blueprints that neither species could have imagined alone. Emma had become the colony's first diplomat, establishing communication protocols with all the interested species. It's like nothing I've ever seen, she told Jake during one of their planning meetings. Species that have ignored each other for centuries are suddenly working together. Mark was developing medical protocols for the multi-species colony. We're going to need entirely new approaches to healthcare, he said excitedly. Imagine what we can learn from treating humans, Velians, and 3 other alien species together. One evening, as Jake stood in the palace gardens where he first truly talked with Queen Lyrics, she joined him by the singing fountain. Her pregnancy was showing now, and the baby's movements created new patterns in her bioluminescent display. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Queen Lyrics asked through their mental connection. Changing so much so quickly? Jake put his arm around her, still amazed that he could touch an alien queen so casually. I think we're doing the only thing that makes sense. Both our species were stuck in old patterns that weren't working anymore. This gives us a chance to become something better. Queen Lyrics leaned against him, her warm weight comfortable and familiar. The baby moved again. I think it's excited about the colony, too. Jake laughed. Of course it is. It's going to be the first citizen of a new kind of civilization. 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the colony's ship New Horizon, watching the stars streak past as they traveled toward the Kepler system. Behind them, 3 other ships carried representatives from 5 different species, all united in the goal of building something unprecedented. Queen Lyrics sat in the captain's chair beside him, holding their newborn daughter. The baby was beautiful. She had Jake's eyes but Queen Lyrics' golden color, human expressions but Velian grace. When she looked at the stars, her skin showed patterns that seemed to match the stellar formations. What should we call her? Jake asked, gently touching his daughter's tiny hand. Queen Lyrics smiled. Hope, she said, because that's what she represents for all of us. Emma approached them with a message pad. Jake, we're getting signal from the Kepler system. It looks like there's already intelligent life there. Jake looked at Queen Lyrics, and through their bond, they shared the same thought. Another species to meet, another opportunity for cooperation instead of conquest. Signal them back, Jake said. Tell them we come in peace, looking for friends and partners. As their daughter gurgled happily in Queen Lyrix's arms, Jake looked out at the approaching star system and smiled. This was just the beginning. With hope as their symbol and cooperation as their method, there was no limit to what they could build together. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and now they had forever to explore it all. The stars ahead seemed to pulse with welcome, as if the universe itself approved of this new way forward.